Welcome to the 16th episode of the Tertius Times podcast. I'm your host, Brian Wright, and I want to focus our attention on three articles that take us around the world. There will be no interview segments for this week, but I have two interesting interviews scheduled soon, and those will be coming out in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. There is also an upcoming USCIRF, United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. You are invited to join, and the event is entitled Strategies for Religious Freedom in Fragile States, and will take place online next Wednesday, September 22nd at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm on the West Coast, so that would be 7:30 a.m. for those of you who may also live here. Registration is open and is free. Details will be provided at the end of the podcast. The link to register is in the description. I've experienced some microphone issues recently, so I'm using a new one, and hopefully the quality will be much more consistent. According to the article, Egypt Shootouts disguise apparent extrajudicial executions from Human Rights Watch, September 7th, 2021, quote, at least 755 people in 143 alleged shootouts between January 2015 and December 2020, unquote, were, quote, alleged armed militants who did not pose an imminent danger to security forces or others when they were killed and in many cases had already been in custody, unquote. 9 of those alleged shootouts were examined by Human Rights Watch, quote, no suspects were arrested in the 9 incidents, unquote, the article states, quote, and there were no casualties among security forces, unquote. In addition, there is evidence that some of the victims were already in custody, while others had been forcibly disappeared, quote unquote, prior to those so-called shootouts. Although, according to the article, quote, it is not possible to reach definite conclusions about the hundreds of killings in the scores of other alleged shootouts, given that the Interior Ministry rarely provides even the most rudimentary information, such as the names of those killed, unquote. There are a number of suspicious elements in many of the counts investigated by Human Rights Watch, including harassment of family members by security forces, inconsistencies of Interior Ministry claims, and the lack of any, quote, serious or meaningful investigations, unquote, by the authorities. While most of the victims were apparently in some way related to the Muslim Brotherhood, a known terrorist organization, the summary executions without a due process trial is in clear violation of humane principles. And of course, inhumane punishment ultimately begets inhumane reactions. Human Rights Watch is calling on countries who supply Egypt with, quote, weapons and security assistance, unquote, including the United States, to halt all such activity. For more information, Human Rights Watch has recently published a thorough report on this activity entitled, quote, Security Forces Dealt with Them, unquote, subtitled Suspicious Killings and Extrajudicial Executions by Egyptian Security Forces, also published September 7th, 2021. The link and the news article and the detailed report are in the description. Pray for Egypt, that there may be a complete healing of hearts, minds, and souls among all people of all sides of this conflict. Pray that they all realize to live in harmony with each other is the only true way to solve eternal conflicts. Pray that they would be open to the words of Jesus who said, quote, my peace I give to you, unquote. That's from John 14:27. Hector Cabrera is a Cuban serving Sudanese refugees in Uganda. According to this article, Cuban missionary to Uganda uses sports to teach Bible to refugees. IMB teams continue to be strengthened through Global Missionary Partners. And that's from the International Missions Board, September 13th, 2021. The International Mission Board of the Southern Baptist Convention has partnered with Cabrera to provide, quote, humanitarian aid and spiritual aid, unquote, to those who have fled the violence in their homeland. In this case, South Sudan, North Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The article indicates that of the refugees, the, quote, majority are animists, unquote, but some are Muslims. The The mission team Cabrera is a part of provides, quote, trauma healing, evangelism, discipleship, and church planting, unquote. Examples of the humanitarian aid they administer are water wells and the building of homes, quote, for those who are disabled and particularly vulnerable, unquote, and delivering of food to school children. Cabrera's specialty is interacting with the young refugees through sports, but COVID has presented difficulties for him there, as well as back home in his native Cuba. He worries about the unrest in Cuba and his family's health during this pandemic. Through his home church in Cuba, the organization Cubans to the Nations fully sponsors him, as well as caring for his family while he is away, alleviating some worry. Pray for the refugees who flee to Uganda. They may be welcomed and cared for as they need. Pray for Uganda, that they may continue to be a home for the homeless. Pray for all those involved in reaching out to those who leave in fear of their lives, everything else behind. Pray also for Cuba, that even in the midst of Cuba's current turmoil, the country may continue to send out its own people to spread the gospel of Christ's love in tangible as well as spiritual ways. This article, Pastor Forced to Go into Hiding After Receiving Threats in India from International Christian Concern, September 3rd, 2021, begins by stating, quote, on August 4th, Pastor Shyamanand was asked to report to his village meeting in northern India's Uttar Pradesh state. When he got there, a mob of 100 radical Hindu nationalists had gathered from 3 villages and began accusing him of forcefully converting people to Christianity. They demanded that he shut down his worship services and ordered him to partake in a purification ritual to reconvert to the Hindu faith, unquote. Forceful conversions are the usual charge against people sharing the gospel and gaining converts in India. Radical Hindus apparently see that as a threat, where they consider India sacred and set apart only for Hindus and, quote, indigenous religions to India, including Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, while foreign religions, quote unquote, such as Christianity and Islam, do not belong on the subcontinent. This again, according to radical Hindus. When Pastor Shyamanand refused to renounce his faith and embraced Hinduism instead, the crowd grew angry and threatened to report to the police that he had been forcibly converting people, which is a violation of India's quote unquote anti-conversion law, which, as the article states, has, quote, been used to spread disinformation about minorities and provide legal cover for radical Hindu nationalists and their activities, unquote. The pastor turned himself into police after 18 days, but was released 2 days later. Although he was freed, the services he had been leaving were stopped. He continued to receive threats either to convert to Hinduism or to leave his village. Pray for Pastor Shyamanand, his family, and others like him who are trying to spread the love of Jesus to people who truly want to hear the message. Pray for India, particularly the state of Uttar Pradesh, where persecution is on the rise. Pray for the Christians in India and other minority religions not deemed acceptable by radical Hindus, that they may experience God's love and protection, and their light may penetrate into the darkest of hearts and minds of those who seek their destruction. Pray for those radical Hindus that they would see Jesus as he truly is, a beacon of hope, love, and acceptance. Pray for the leaders of India, particularly those belonging to radical nationalist parties, that they may, like Saul on the road to Tarsus, have the scales dropped from their eyes and experiencing God's all-encompassing presence. This is a reminder that if you are interested and can make it, this hearing on religious freedom is scheduled for next week. You can join in by registering free through the link in the description. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found the information presented here useful and that it encouraged you to pray for these areas of concern and perhaps even inspired you to take positive steps of involvement to alleviate the suffering of so many around the globe. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.